last topic for today. So yeah, I'm so glad that there's an after party later, right? And yeah, just otherwise, some of you would be now, halfway somewhere else. Uh, yeah. So let's give ourselves a round of applause for staying here until the end. Thank you. So yeah, okay. Secondly, I'd like to thank Infinite Red for the excellent job of organizing and managing this huge event, and for inviting me to speak here in front of you. So again, I'm Devlin Duldulao. I'm a Microsoft MVP and an Auth0 ambassador. I'm also, I used to be a Xamarin developer. Okay, so in my background, that's Hokkaido's powder snow in Japan. It's frequently praised by skiers around the world. So if you love skiing and snowboarding, going there should be in your bucket list. Okay, I'm from Manila originally, but I live in Oslo now in Norway. And I work for Inmera, doing full stack development. So let's start with the state management. We all know Redux is the most popular state management library in React world. Approach is functional. It has three core principles. First one, it has a store. So store acts as a single source of truth. The other one is state. State is read-only. It can only be changed by emitting an action. Lastly, changes to state are made by pure functions, also known as reducers. Okay, so we also know that Redux is incredibly manual. But do you know that there's another state management library in React that you can use? Lo and behold, we have Mobx. It's incredibly magical. You'll see that in a bit. Now, why some developers prefer Mobx over Redux? They said Redux gives you too much boilerplate. Mobx, on the other hand, has easier learning curve and significantly less code to write. Now, shout out to James Porter's presentation early this year. He built two identical React apps. One is written in Mobx State Tree. The other one is written in Redux. So yeah, as you can see here, Redux has way higher number of lines of codes than Mobx State Tree. This is because of the action types, action creators, and reducers that you need to write in a React Redux application. So the implication here is writing React Mobx apps will be more maintainable in the future than React Redux apps. So what really is Mobx? Mobx is a battle-tested library that makes state management simple and scalable by transparently applying a functional reactive programming. So for anyone here doesn't know reactive programming, to make it short, reactive programming has principal similarities with the observer pattern, so commonly used in OOP, or object-oriented programming. Now, I'm assuming you have encountered PubSub design pattern at some point. To differentiate observer from public subscribe, observers are aware of the subject, and also the subject maintains a copy of the observers, whereas in a publisher subscriber, they don't need to know each other. Now, a common question of a developer here is, how does Mobx relate to stream libraries like RxJS, Bacon.js, etc.? So stream libraries solve a different problem than Mobx. RxJS helps you react to events, while Mobx helps you react to values, which is the state, if you will. So let's suppose you want to reactively derive a display name of a person object. You want something like this. In RxJS, you would use combine latest, map, distinct until change. So these are operators. In Mobx, you hardly have operators, as the stuff is normally combined through normal JavaScript constructions. Now let's go to MST. Unlike Mobx, Mobx State Tree, or MST, is an opinionated library that imposes a strict architecture on your state organization. So what are the packages that you'll need when developing in React Native? We have Mobx, Mobx React, Mobx State Tree. Although when working on a React web app, you would also need to install this. Mobx React Router, it keeps your Mobx state in sync with a React Router via Router Store. The other one is Mobx React DevTools. So Mobx React DevTools to track the rendering behavior and data dependencies of your app. Now let's go to ES Nex, optional decorators in Mobx. So just like in Java and Python, you can also use annotations here in React, but it's called decorators. So a decorator in JavaScript is simply a way of wrapping a piece of code with another, so literally decorating it. And to enable that in your compiler, you have to add these packages. And you should edit or update your bubble RC configuration to be like this. And if you prefer to use bubble.config.js, this is how you do it. And note that the order of plugins is important. Decorators should be listed first. So here it is. Yep. So, however, based on the official docs of Mobx, decorators are not recommended when building React Mobx apps. The recommended approach here is to use the Mobx utilities. You will see them in a bit. Now let's get to the meat of the topic. Now, to help you easily learn Mobx or reactive programming, let's associate them to a spreadsheet. So just remember these key concepts here: observables, computed values, actions, and reactions. Now, how can we compare this with spreadsheet? Okay, observables, they turn properties of an object into spreadsheet cells. Actions are the act of editing the values of cells. Computed values, derived from data cells and other formulas. It is updated automatically when one of the properties is modified. And lastly, reaction, drawing the output of a data cell or a formula. This is the real-time UI updates in React, patches the DOM. So that's the core Mobx library. But in React, you also need to use these two functions. These are the two functions or decorators that you saw earlier. Observer decorator that can be used to turn React.js components into reactive components. And the other one is inject, which connects components to provided stores. Now let's go to our demo, first demo. So here, we're creating a React Native app. Let's name it MST demo. Let's open it up using VS Code. And first step is let's create a directory. Let's name it app, and let's move our app.js, and then update our index.js, like so. And then next step is now we can start creating our model. So to do type, this will be the schema of our model. But first, we need to add our libraries, Mobx, Mobx React, and Mobx State Tree. Then we need to import our first module here that we'll be using, the types. So to do type, so types can be primitive, complex, utility. They define a model. And the ID will be identifier. It's done. Types that optional. And then we'll set a default value, false. Next step is now we can create our store. Let's name it to-do store.js. Now let's import it from our Mobx State Tree. Again, types. Then to-do model, types model. To-do model, and then we can pass in the to-do type that we created earlier. And now we can start creating the store itself. Types, model, to-do store, and then an object. This will be the state of the store. Types array of to-do model. Then to-do, types, nullable, be null, to-do model, and then it's loading for our spinner or loader. Set it to Boolean. Now we can start chaining some actions here. So actions, they modify the states. Self, meaning it is bound to current instance, and views are where you derive a fact from your state. And then here we're now initializing our states. To-dos, just an empty array. To do, let's jump back to do types.js just to make it cleaner. Here's to do initial state. Then ID will be just an empty string. It's done, false. Then here, to do initial state is loading. Let's set it to false. And now we're done here. Now we can export the store. And now we can start adding a navigation. Let's name it the first root navigation. But we need a library for that. React navigation. And then I'm pasting here stack navigation. In to-do list, so our to-do list will be the screen of our app. To-do list.js. And we also need a third-party library, UI component library. Let's add native base. And then I'm pasting here some components from native base, some views. Now we can start creating the to-do list. render. Okay, let's remove this, pasting here the UI of our app. Now we can start exporting it. Export default, to-do list, and just paste it here, our styles. Okay, I think, and then jumping back to root navigation, need to import that. To-do list, okay. Then, yeah, that's it. And then we also need a wrapper for our root navigation. So we'll be putting there our provider, import, Mobx React, and then the provider. Okay, and then stores, to do store. Then, of course, our root navigation, we're bringing it in. Now, this will be the object stores. So you can put as many stores you want here. Then class, we can start creating our component, navigation, wrapper, stand, React component, render, need to edit that provider, and then inside of our provider will be the root navigation, like so, and then that's object spread, the stores, like so. Then we can export that. Yep. Navigation wrapper. Now, okay, we have to update our index.js, replace the app component with navigation wrapper that we just created. Delete this line here. Okay, I think that's it. Let's run the app. Okay, so that's our UI there. And now, next step is we need to inject the store, our to-do store. So we need to go to a to-do list. And that's our to-do list. We need to import from Mobx React, inject and observer. Back here, inject, passing the name of our store, to-do store, and then let's convert the component into a reactive component by using observer. That's it, refresh the app, and let's open up the React Native debugger here, just to see if we properly place our store here, store. Searching for it. Component to-do list. Okay, so that's the state of our store. Beautiful. Okay. And for your React web app, this is the implementation of merging your stores together and then passing them in your provider. As you can see here, the Mobx React router is in use. Mobx React router, yep, that one. And then the router store, yep. And the dev tools, like so, yeah, there it is. Now, how about changing the states of your app after sending requests to web services? Now let's define our action, but we need a third-party library, Axios, and let's add JSON server, fake for our fake web service. JSON server, watch DB JSON, port 1000, delay 750 millisecond, just to make it realistic. Now, yeah, we need to remove this. These are default values or response by JSON server, and to-dos that returns empty array for now. Then for our services, let's define our API config.js here. Pasting here the endpoints or URL API. Let's go back to our directory. Now we can start creating our service, to-do service. And here I'm pasting the HTTP verbs that we're going to use. Delete to do, put to do, post to do, and get to do's. Okay. So now we can start adding some actions. To do store, actions. Let's name it first. Our first action, load to do's, flow. You need to import that from Mobx State Tree. So flow, telling your app that this is an asynchronous process flow. And function generator. So a generator is a function that can stop midway and then continue from where it stopped. Setting the is loading to true, turning it on. Self, to-dos, yield. So yield is like an await. They're semantically the same. Services, get to-dos. Okay. Also are supposed to do. So flow is your async, yield is your await. So since we're using Axios here, we need to extract the response that we need from the data property. Then making use of our catch error. Now, yep, setting it to false, turning it off. Let's add another one. Create to do, flow again, function generator. Let's set it through our is loading, then try catch inside of that. Our request, yield, post to do, new to do. Self that to do's. On shift, just to make sure or just want to see the newly created object on top of the list. Then alert, message. Let's try again. Then turning off the spinner overloader. And now we have to edit or, where's it? Delete, no, this one. Console warn, create. But we're adding first a third-party library again. So it's UU ID. So here we're gonna create the GUID. So we're generating GUIDs here on our client rather than doing that on the server or web service. So that's the function before. Then we need to import also the store. Then going back, to do store dot, create to do, then passing the object with GUID ID. And then lastly, you guess it right, component did mount. To do store dot load to dos. Yeah, that's it. Let's refresh the app. Let's add the object here, to do, and another one. So it's working. Yep. Okay, so let's go to our last demo, destroy uncomputed values. Okay, so next is for our put request, let's name it strike through to do. So we're putting strike through on every cell that is done. Const index of to do's. Yep. So here, yeah, to do is done. Bang operator, to do is done. We should be able to toggle it. Self to do's. So as you can see here, we're updating the UI right before we send the request. So we are doing a simple optimistic UI update here. So this is these guys are, this is really cool because it makes your app look real time, but it's not actually. So it's really good for your user experience. But of course, we need to go to its previous state. We need to bring it back. So here, inside the catch error, we're rolling back to its previous state, and then telling your user something happened. So this is just a simple optimistic UI update. We will be testing it later. And then for our delete request, let's name it remove to do, flow function. We're also using an optimistic update here, but we'll be using the Mobx State Tree utilities, get snapshot. So we're storing the old state of the to-dos. And then here, destroy. So using destroy to remove an instance entirely from the tree. In short, no need for using splice. So this is our request, yield, delete to do. And then where's it? So here we should be able to roll back. So we'll use apply snapshot. Then to-dos, replace that with the old to-dos that we copied. And then, of course, the alert informing your users. Please try again. Yep. Now we need to put some styling here. Yep, for the is done, toggling, the text decoration line through. And here, okay, I'm pasting the handles of the actions. Handle delete to do, handle update to do. Inside of that, those are to do store actions that we just created. Okay, console one, need to update that. This, handle update to do. Yep, and then this, handle delete to do. Yep. Yeah, and then, yep, let's refresh the app. Strike through, it's working. Delete, working. Oh, let's disable that. It's here, yep. Okay, let's try it again. Delete, yep, working. Update, yeah, strike through, delete again. Yeah. So let's go to our service, and we'll edit the endpoint of our request. Let's just put this number here so that we get the error that we want, and then we can roll back to its previous state. Strike through, alert, no strike through anymore. Let's try it again. Delete, it's gone. It went back. So, yeah, strike through. So the optimistic update is working. Yep. So it rolls back, guys. It's really cool. And then here, for our counter, remaining to-dos, which is we haven't created yet. So let's go back to the views. And then here's our computed values, get remaining to-dos, which returns the total number of to-dos that are not yet done. So to-dos, filter, dot length. Yeah, I think that's it. Let's refresh the app. Now the counter is working. 2, 3, 4, 3 again, 2. Yep, syncing perfectly. Delete, update. So, there again, delete. Yep. So yeah, just like that, it worked like a charm. So what about errors? So let's be real. You'll face a lot of this while you're developing your app. In here, this is what we call red screen of death. So what does it say? It says error while converting to type. Value is not assignable to type. So this is MST throwing an error at you because you're not assigning the right types to your objects. So that's how strict it is. So what's next? Snapshots and patches. Please check them out in MST docs. And here, Infinite Red has this very awesome CLI tool called Ignite Browser. Helps you scaffold the project. It has rack navigation, Mobx State Tree, and TypeScript out of the box. This is the CLI. The default project, scaffolded project for you, and the default UI or home screen. But wait, there's more. Another one from Infinite Red, Reactatron. So Reactatron is based on official remote debugger. It provides more insights while your app is running. So do yourself a favor, check them out. We have Mobx Rack Lite. Next iteration of Mobx React, built especially for React hooks. MST GQL, bindings for Mobx State Tree and GraphQL. And here we have Mobx and Mobx State Tree free courses on egghead.io made by Michelle Westrates, who created Mobx and Mobx State Tree. Check them out, guys. These are free. And if you're hitting a wall while developing your app, you can always go to MST's community channel and Spectrum. Most of the time, you'll get answers within an hour. So a word of caution here, once you tried Mobx, you'll never go back. So I'll hang around for questions. Please don't hesitate to approach me later. And source code's here, slides, download it. Okay, so before we end, I have a favor to ask. So, this become a tradition of mine. So just a selfie. So guys, oops. Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so, and then lastly, if you're interested working in Oslo, let me know. Send me your CVs. We are hiring. That's my email. So that's all. Again, I'm Devlin Duldulao.